The marble floor was cold beneath her bleeding knees. Alpha Vartan's voice thundered through the great hall as he gripped Anahit's hair and yanked her head down toward the floor. "Kiss her feet," he commanded, his fingers tightening until tears streamed down her cheeks. "Kiss your replacement's feet, or I will have your entire bloodline executed before sunrise." The new Luna, draped in crimson silk and dripping with stolen jewels, extended one delicate foot forward, a cruel smile playing on her painted lips. Every wolf in the hall watched. Every breath was held. Every heart waited for Anahit's humiliation to be complete. But then, the massive doors of the great hall exploded inward, and the heir of the eastern mountains walked through the smoke and debris, his eyes glowing the color of molten gold, his wolf rising so close to the surface that the air itself trembled. He looked at the scene before him. He looked at the woman on her knees. And then, Tigran Arshakunian, son of the most powerful alpha in all 7 territories, did the unthinkable. He walked past his own father's alliance. He walked past the new Luna with her extended foot. He dropped to both knees before the rejected, bleeding woman. And he kissed her feet instead. Before I tell you why the most powerful heir in the 7 territories just shattered every alliance his family had built for 300 years, before I reveal the secret Anahit carries in her blood and why that secret will change everything, I need you to do something for me. If you're already hooked and you want to hear how this story unfolds, drop a comment right now. Tell me the city you're watching from so that I can send you a hug. And if you haven't subscribed yet, you're going to want to. Because this story, it's going to break your heart in the best possible way before it puts it back together. Now let me take you back to the beginning. Let me show you how Anahit went from the most beloved Luna in the Northern Territory to a woman forced to her knees in front of 500 wolves. Let me show you the betrayal. And let me show you the love story that no one, not even the moon goddess herself, saw coming. The Northern Territory had been at peace for 17 years. 17 years of prosperity. 17 years of strong borders. 17 years of pups being born healthy, of harvests coming in golden and abundant, of the pack thriving under the leadership of Alpha Vartan Azarian and his Luna. His Luna, Anahit. She had been chosen by the moon goddess herself. That's what everyone believed. That's what Vartan himself had proclaimed on the night of their mating ceremony, when the bond had snapped into place with such force that both of them had collapsed, their wolves howling in unison, their souls intertwining in a way that seemed unbreakable. Anahit had been 18 then. Young, hopeful, desperately in love with the powerful alpha who had claimed her as his. She had given him everything. Her youth, her loyalty, her body, her wolf. She had stood by his side through the border wars. She had nursed him back to health when a rival alpha had poisoned him during a treaty negotiation. She had held his hand through the grief when his mother passed, and she had carried the weight of the entire pack's welfare on her shoulders when he was too lost in his sorrow to lead. Anahit had been more than a Luna. She had been the heart of the Northern Territory. But there was one thing she had failed to give him. Heir. 17 years of marriage. 17 years of trying. 17 years of secret tears and private grief, and the slowly growing coldness in her mate's eyes every time another full moon passed without the blessing of a pregnancy. The whispers had started small. Perhaps she's barren. Perhaps the goddess made a mistake. Perhaps the alpha should take a second mate. Anahit had heard them all. She had pretended not to. She had held her head high and continued to serve her pack, continued to love her mate, continued to hope that one day, the goddess would bless her womb. But hope is a fragile thing. And Vartan's patience was not infinite. The night everything changed started like any other. Anahit was in the pack's healing quarters, tending to an elderly wolf named Paranzem who had fallen ill with the winter sickness. The old woman had been a friend of Anahit's mother, and even though Anahit was the Luna, even though she had servants and healers who could have done this work, she believed that true leadership meant never being too proud to serve. She was wiping Paranzem's forehead with a cool cloth when her mate's voice thundered through their bond. "Come to the great hall. Now." Anahit frowned. The command was cold, distant. There was no warmth in it, no affection. Things between them had been strained lately. Vartan had been distant for months, spending more and more time away from their shared chambers, taking long trips to neighboring territories for diplomatic negotiations. She had suspected something was wrong. She had not suspected how catastrophically, devastatingly wrong it truly was. When Anahit entered the Great Hall, she found every high-ranking wolf in the territory already assembled. Elders, the warriors, the council members. They all stood in neat rows, their faces carefully blank, their eyes refusing to meet hers. And at the front of the hall, seated on the Luna's throne, her throne, was a woman Anahit had never seen before. She was young, perhaps 19 or 20, beautiful in the way that sharp things are beautiful, all angles and edges and cold, calculating eyes. Her hair was the color of midnight, her skin pale as moonlight, and she was draped in crimson silk that clung to her body like a lover's hands. On her neck, Anahit saw it. Fresh mating mark. Her mate's mark. The world tilted. The ground beneath Anahit's feet seemed to dissolve. Her wolf let out a howl of anguish inside her chest, the sound so raw and broken that Anahit had to press a hand to her heart to keep from crumbling. "Ah," Vartan said, his voice carrying through the silent hall. "My former Luna arrives." Former. The word hit her like a physical blow. "Vartan," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "What is this? What have you done?" He rose from his throne, the Alpha's throne, and descended the steps toward her. He moved slowly, deliberately, like a predator savoring the fear of its prey. "What I should have done years ago," he said. "I have taken a new Luna. Proper Luna. One who can give me what you never could." "We are mated," Anahit said, her voice strengthening despite the tears threatening to fall. "We are bonded by the goddess herself. You cannot simply—" "I can," Vartan cut her off. "And I have." He gestured to the woman on the throne. "This is Sirenish, daughter of Alpha Surin from the Western Territory. He carries my pup, already confirmed by 3 healers." The hall was utterly silent. Anahit felt the blood drain from her face. Pregnant. His new mate was already pregnant. Which meant, "How long?" she heard herself ask. "How long have you been?" "Long enough," Vartan said dismissively. "It doesn't matter now. What matters is the future of this pack. What matters is the heir that Sirenish will give me. The heir you could never provide." Anahit's wolf was screaming inside her, howling, clawing at the walls of her consciousness with rage and grief and a betrayal so profound it felt like dying. But Anahit had been Luna of this pack for 17 years. She had learned to bury her pain, to wear a mask of strength even when everything inside her was breaking. "The bond," she said quietly. "You would break our mate bond. You know what that means. You know the pain." "I am the Alpha," Vartan snarled, stepping closer until he was looming over her. "I can survive any pain. And you?" His lip curled in disgust. "You will survive whatever I allow you to survive." He turned away from her, walking back toward the thrones. "Tonight we celebrate the true Luna of the Northern Territory," he announced to the assembled wolves. "Tonight we welcome Sirenish into our pack." He paused. "And tonight, the former Luna will demonstrate her acceptance of the new order." Anahit's blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" Vartan smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a wolf who had cornered his prey and was preparing to feast. "You will kneel before your new Luna," he said. "You will kiss her feet in submission. You will acknowledge her superiority before the entire pack." The hall erupted in murmurs. Several of the elders shifted uncomfortably. Even the warriors, wolves who had sworn loyalty to Vartan, looked uneasy. This was not done. A Luna, even a rejected one, was not humiliated in this way. It went against every tradition, every law of their kind. But Vartan was beyond laws now. Anahit could see it in his eyes. Something had broken in him, or perhaps something had been revealed. Perhaps the man she had loved had never existed at all. "I will not," Anahit said, her voice clear and steady. I have served this pack faithfully for 17 years. I have given everything. You have given me nothing. Vartan roared, his control snapping. Nothing but an empty womb and false hope. 17 years of waiting. 17 years of watching other alphas build dynasties while I had no heir. You made me a laughingstock among the territories. That's not true, Anahit whispered. You know that's not true. But Vartan wasn't listening anymore. He was beyond reason. Beyond the bond that still flickered weakly between them. Beyond any mercy or remembrance of the love they had once shared. He strode toward her, and before she could react, his hand shot out and grabbed her hair. The pain was immediate and blinding. Anahit cried out as Vartan dragged her forward, toward the throne where Cyrenish sat watching with cold, satisfied eyes. I said kneel. He forced her down. Her knees hit the marble floor with a sickening crack. Pain exploded through her legs, but it was nothing compared to the agony in her soul. Vartan, please. Kiss her feet. Anahit looked up at the woman who had stolen her life. Cyrenish's eyes glittered with triumph. She extended one delicate foot, adorned with golden rings and painted with henna, toward Anahit's face. Go on, Cyrenish purred. Show me the respect I deserve. Every wolf in the hall was frozen. Some looked horrified. Others looked away, shame burning on their cheeks. But no one moved. No one spoke. No one dared challenge their alpha. Anahit closed her eyes. This was it. This was how her story ended. 17 years of love and service, reduced to this moment of absolute humiliation. She thought about fighting. She thought about calling on her wolf, about letting the beast rise and tear through this hall with all the fury of a wounded mate. But she knew Vartan would kill her. And more than that, he would punish everyone who had ever shown her kindness. He would destroy the servants who had been loyal to her, the guards who had protected her, the healers who had become her friends. For their sake she would endure. For their sake she would. The doors exploded. The force of the impact shook the entire hall. Massive oak doors, reinforced with iron and protective enchantments, blew inward as if they were made of paper. Splinters of wood flew through the air. Dust and smoke billowed into the space. And through the chaos walked a figure that made every wolf in the room freeze with primal terror. Tigran Arshakunian, the heir of the Eastern Mountains. Son of Alpha Mesrop Arshakunian, the most powerful alpha in all 7 territories. Future ruler of a pack so vast that it commanded the loyalty of 30,000 wolves. Commander of the Shadow Guard, the most elite fighting force their kind had ever known. And by all accounts the most dangerous wolf alive. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with shoulders broad enough to fill a doorway. His hair was dark as a raven's wing, falling in waves to his shoulders. His jaw was sharp, his cheekbones high. His features arranged in a face that was beautiful in the way that storms are beautiful, magnificent and terrifying in equal measure. But it was his eyes that commanded attention. Molten gold. Burning with an inner fire that spoke of barely contained power. Eyes that saw everything, judged everything, and found most things wanting. He was flanked by 4 members of his Shadow Guard, each of them radiating enough power to make the Northern Territory's warriors shrink back. Tigran's gaze swept across the hall. It landed on Vartan, standing with his hand still tangled in Anahit's hair. It landed on Cyrenish, frozen on her stolen throne. And then it landed on Anahit. Something shifted in those golden eyes. Something that made the temperature in the room drop by several degrees. Well, Tigran said. His voice a low rumble that seemed to vibrate through the very foundations of the building. I came here to discuss a treaty between our territories. Instead I find. He paused, tilting his head as if genuinely curious. What exactly do I find? Vartan released Anahit's hair immediately, stepping back and straightening his clothes. His entire demeanor shifted, from cruel tyrant to simpering politician in the span of a heartbeat. Heir Arshakunian, he said. his voice unctuous with false warmth. "We weren't expecting you until tomorrow. If we had known, you would have finished this little display in private." Tigran interrupted, his tone deceptively mild. How thoughtful. He was walking now, moving through the hall with the lethal grace of a predator. The crowd parted before him like water before a ship's prow. Cyrenish rose from her throne, clearly intending to greet him with whatever charm she could muster. But Tigran didn't even glance at her. His eyes were fixed on Anahit. She was still on her knees, still bleeding where her skin had cracked against the marble, still shaking with a combination of pain, humiliation, and shock. But she did not look away from him. Some instinct, some ancient primal knowing, told her that this moment mattered, that what happened next would change everything. Tigran stopped 3 feet in front of her. And then he did something that no one, not Vartan, not Cyrenish, not the assembled wolves, not even his own shadow guard, expected. He dropped to his knees. The sound of his knees hitting the marble echoed through the suddenly silent hall. 500 wolves watched as the heir of the Eastern Mountains, the most powerful young alpha in the 7 territories, knelt before a rejected Luna. And then he bent his head and kissed her feet. The silence that followed was absolute, stretched for one heartbeat. Vartan's face had gone pale as snow. His mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. Cyrenish looked like she might faint. And Anahit stared down at the man kneeling before her, her breath caught in her throat, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. "What are you doing?" she whispered. Tigran lifted his head. His golden eyes met hers, and Anahit felt something inside her chest crack open, something that had nothing to do with Vartan's betrayal and everything to do with the strange, impossible man before her. "What I should have done the moment I felt the bond," he said quietly, so softly that only she could hear. "What I would have done years ago if your marriage to him hadn't stopped me." The word hit her like lightning. "That's impossible," she breathed. "I'm mated. I was mated." "Not fully," Tigran said. "The bond between you and Vartan was never complete. Your wolf knew it. My wolf knew it. The goddess knew it." His jaw tightened. "I felt you for 5 years, Anahit. Every full moon, your essence called to me across the territories. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw your face in my dreams. And every time I came to these territories for diplomatic business, I had to fight my wolf to keep from tearing through this pack to find you. 5 years. 5 years this man had known. 5 years he had waited. Why didn't you tell me?" Anahit asked, her voice cracking. "Because you believed you were happy," Tigran said simply. "Because you had made vows. Because you were loyal to a man who—" His eyes flickered toward Vartan, and something murderous passed through their golden depths. Clearly never deserved a single moment of that loyalty. He rose to his feet, then extended his hand toward her. "Get up, Anahit." She stared at his hand, at the strength in those fingers, at the promise in that gesture. "If I take your hand," she said slowly, "there's no going back. I know. Vartan will see it as a declaration of war. I know. Your father will." "My father," Tigran interrupted gently, "has been waiting for me to claim my true mate for 5 years. He'll be relieved that I've finally stopped pining. Despite everything, despite the pain and the humiliation and the chaos of the last hour, Anahit felt the ghost of a smile tug at her lips. "Pining. Tragically," Tigran confirmed. "Ask anyone in my pack. It's been pathetic." She took his hand. His fingers closed around hers with a warmth and certainty that made her wolf, broken and bleeding as it was, lift its head for the first time since Vartan's betrayal. Tigran pulled her to her feet. He kept hold of her hand, turning to face Vartan with the calm assurance of a man who knew exactly how much power he held. "Now then," he said, his voice carrying through the hall, "let's discuss the new terms of our treaty." Vartan's face had gone from pale to purple with rage. "This is an outrage," he snarled. "You have no right." "I have every right," Tigran said coolly. Your former Luna is my true mate. The bond between you was never properly sealed. By the laws of our people, she was never truly yours to claim. He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. And the way I just saw you treat her, that's grounds for challenge under 17 different territorial statutes. You wouldn't dare challenge me in my own hall, wouldn't I? The temperature dropped again. The shadows in the corners of the room seemed to deepen, to shift, to move with a life of their own. Tigran Arshakunian was not just an alpha. He was a shadow wolf, the rarest and most powerful bloodline in their entire species. Wolves who could manipulate darkness itself, who could move through shadows as easily as walking through air, who could kill without ever being seen. There hadn't been a shadow wolf born in 300 years. Until Tigran. Here is what's going to happen, Tigran said, his voice taking on the commanding resonance of an alpha speaking law. Anahit is coming with me. Tonight. Any wolf who attempts to stop us will answer to my shadow guard. And I promise you, that's not an experience anyone in this room wants to have. He glanced at Cyranish, who shrank back against the throne. You can keep your new Luna, he continued. And the pup she carries. I'm sure you'll be very happy together. The sarcasm in his voice was razor-sharp. But know this, Vartan Nazarian. Any attempt to harm Anahit, to pursue her, to so much as whisper her name in anything but respect, will be treated as an act of war against the Eastern Mountains. He paused, letting the words sink in. And I think we both know how that war would end. Vartan's hands were shaking. His wolf was clearly straining against its leash, demanding that he fight, that he assert his dominance, that he not be humiliated in front of his entire pack. But Vartan Nazarian had not survived 17 years as an alpha by being stupid. He knew he couldn't win this fight. Not against Tigran. Not against the shadow wolves. Not against the might of the Eastern Mountains. Fine, he spat. Take her. She's worthless to me anyway. Tigran's eyes flashed dangerously. Careful. She couldn't give me a pup in 17 years. What makes you think she'll give you one? The silence that followed was different from before. This silence was dangerous. It was the silence before a storm breaks, before a predator strikes, before blood is spilled. Tigran took a single step toward Vartan. You want to know what I think, he said softly. I think the problem was never Anahit. I think the problem was you. Because here's a little secret about true mate bonds, Vartan. They don't produce heirs until both wolves are fully committed. Until the bond is complete. And the bond between you and Anahit was never complete because part of her, the deepest, most essential part, knew that you were not her true mate. He smiled again, and this time there was satisfaction in it. She couldn't give you a pup because she wasn't meant to. Her wolf was waiting for me. Vartan's face twisted with fury, but he had no response. No argument, no defense. Because deep down, in the part of him that still remembered what it felt like to be bonded to Anahit, he knew Tigran was right. Tigran turned away from him, dismissing him as completely and utterly as one dismisses a servant who has displeased them. He looked at Anahit. Ready. She should have been afraid. She should have been confused. She should have questioned everything about this impossible night. Instead, she looked at Tigran Arshakunian, at her true mate, the man who had waited 5 years for her, who had walked into a hostile pack and knelt before her when she was at her lowest, and she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Oh, ready, she said. They left the great hall together. The shadow guard flanked them, for silent warriors whose eyes never stopped moving, whose hands never strayed far from their weapons. Outside the night was cold. A full moon hung overhead, bright and heavy, casting silver light across the courtyard. Anahit paused at the top of the stairs, breathing in the crisp air. She was still trembling, still processing, still trying to understand how her life had changed so completely in the span of an hour. It's a lot, Tigran said quietly, as if reading her thoughts. I know it's a lot. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. That's an understatement. We can take our time, he said. We don't have to rush anything. I've waited 5 years. I can wait longer. Anahit turned to look at him. Really look at him. He was so different from Vartan. Vartan had always been demanding, possessive, insisting on his rights as her mate from the very first night. He had claimed her body before he had bothered to learn her heart. But Tigran had known about their bond for 5 years and had never once tried to interfere with her marriage. He had respected her choices, even when those choices kept her apart from him. He had suffered in silence because he believed she was happy. And the moment he had seen that she wasn't, the moment he had seen her being humiliated and abused, he had torn through those doors and upended everything. Why did you kneel? Anahit asked suddenly. In the hall. Why did you kiss my feet? Tigran's expression softened. Because he wanted to see you broken. He wanted to take everything from you, your dignity, your pride, your sense of self. And I wanted to show you, and everyone in that room, that your worth doesn't depend on his approval. That there is someone in this world who would kneel before you not to humiliate you, but to honor you. Tears pricked at Anahit's eyes. You didn't have to do that. I wanted to. Your father's alliance with the Northern Territory was never more important than you, Tigran said firmly. Nothing is more important than you, Anahit. Nothing has been, since the first moment I felt your soul called to mine across the mountains. She had spent 17 years believing she was loved. Believing Vartan's words, his promises, his occasional gestures of affection that had grown rarer and rarer as the years passed without a child. This was what love actually felt like. This was a man who would tear down kingdoms for her. Who would kneel in front of his enemies to prove a point. Who had waited 5 years, patient and unwavering, for the chance to simply be near her. I don't know you, Anahit said softly. I don't know anything about you except what I've heard in whispers and rumors. I know, Tigran agreed. And that's fair. You don't have to trust me yet. You don't have to love me yet. All I'm asking is for the chance to show you who I am. To prove that what exists between us is real. And if I decide I don't want this bond. Tigran's jaw tightened, but his eyes remained gentle. Then I'll let you go. I'll provide you with a home, protection, anything you need to start a new life. I won't force you into anything, Anahit. That's not who I am. She studied him for a long moment, looking for deception, looking for manipulation, looking for any hint of the cruelty she had just escaped. She found nothing but sincerity. Okay, she said finally. I'll come with you. I'll give this a chance. The relief that flooded Tigran's face was almost painful to witness. It was the look of a man who had been holding his breath for 5 years and had finally been given permission to exhale. Thank you, he said softly. Don't thank me yet, Anahit replied. I have a lot of healing to do. And I won't be an easy person to live with for a while. I don't want easy, Tigran said. I want you. And despite everything, despite the pain and the betrayal and the terror of starting over, Anahit felt her broken heart begin, ever so slowly, to mend. The journey to the eastern mountains took 3 days. Tigran had offered to have her ride in a carriage, but Anahit had declined. She wanted to feel the wind on her face. She wanted to watch the landscape change as they crossed from familiar territory into land she had only heard about in stories. She rode beside Tigran, their horses moving at an easy pace. The shadow guard maintained a protective perimeter around them, but they kept their distance, giving their alpha and his mate privacy. On the first day they talked little. Anahit was too lost in her own thoughts, and Tigran seemed content to simply be near her without demanding conversation. But on the second day, she began to ask questions. Tell me about your pack, she said as they passed through a forest of ancient oaks. What's it like, living in the mountains? Tigran's face lit up. It's beautiful, he said. The air is thin and cold, but it's clean. You can see for hundreds of miles from the higher peaks. In winter, everything is covered in snow, and the pack gathers in the great halls for feasting and storytelling. In summer, the valleys bloom with wildflowers, colors you've never seen anywhere else. And your family? My father, Mesrop, is stern but fair. He's been alpha for 40 years, and the pack has thrived under his leadership. My mother, Guyane, died when I was young, but my father never took another mate. He said one great love was enough for one lifetime. Tigran paused, a shadow passing over his face. I have a younger sister, Nvart. She's 23 and completely convinced that she's the most talented warrior in the pack. Is she? Tigran laughed. Don't tell her I said this, but yes, probably. She's terrifying. Anahit found herself smiling. I'd like to meet her. She already knows about you. She's been preparing a welcome feast since the moment I sent word that I was bringing you home. He shook his head. She's excited to have another woman in the family. Apparently, living with just me and our father has been suffocating. As they rode, Anahit found herself relaxing by degrees. The tension that had been coiled in her shoulders for 17 years, tension she hadn't even realized she was carrying, began to ease. This man was different. Everything about this was different. On the third day, as the mountains rose before them in the distance, Anahit asked the question that had been burning in her mind. The shadow wolf abilities, she said carefully. What exactly can you do? Tigran's expression grew thoughtful. The legends say shadow wolves can step between worlds, that we can walk in darkness as easily as in light, that we can become one with the shadows themselves. He glanced at her. Most of that is exaggerated, but not all of it. Show me. He hesitated, then nodded. One moment he was riding beside her, solid and real and present. The next he simply dissolved. He became darkness, became shadow, became nothing. Anahit's horse shied, sensing the sudden wrongness in the world. She gripped the reins, her heart pounding, scanning the road for any sign of him. And then he was there again, stepping out of the shadow of a tree 20 feet ahead. His form coalescing from darkness like smoke taking shape. It's useful, he said simply, walking back toward her. For combat. For reconnaissance. For disappearing when you don't want to be found. Anahit let out a shaky breath. That's terrifying. I know. Tigran mounted his horse again, settling into the saddle. It scared me too when I first developed the ability. I was 15. I woke up one morning and found myself standing in the shadows of my father's war room, with no memory of how I'd gotten there. What did your father do? He trained me, day and night for 3 years, until I had complete control over it. Tigran's jaw tightened. He understood something that most people don't. Power without control is just another form of weakness. Anahit nodded slowly. It was a philosophy she agreed with. And it told her something important about the man beside her, that he was not someone who let his abilities define him, but someone who had worked to master them through discipline and dedication. They arrived at the eastern mountains at sunset. Anahit had expected the pack's territory to be impressive, but she was not prepared for the sheer scale of what she saw. The pack compound sprawled across multiple valleys, connected by bridges and pathways carved into the mountainsides. Stone buildings rose from the rocky terrain. Homes, training grounds, gathering halls, all built with a blend of practical functionality and surprising beauty. And the wolves, thousands of them. They came out to greet their returning heir, lining the pathways, their eyes curious as they took in the woman riding beside him. Anahit felt the weight of their gazes, felt their assessment, felt the questions they were too polite to ask aloud. But there was no hostility, no suspicion, just welcome. They know who you are, Tigran said quietly. I told my father about our bond years ago. He made sure the pack was prepared for the day I finally brought you home. And they're okay with it? Anahit asked. A rejected Luna from another territory. You are not a rejected Luna, Tigran interrupted firmly. You are my true mate. You are destined to be the Luna of the Eastern Mountains. That's all anyone here cares about. At the top of the central path stood a massive stone hall, larger and grander than anything in Vartan's territory. 2 figures waited at the entrance. One was an older man, tall and silver-haired, with the same golden eyes as Tigran and an aura of authority that spoke of decades of leadership. The other was a young woman, dark-haired and fierce-looking, practically vibrating with contained energy. "My father and my sister," Tigran said. "Brace yourself." Before Anahit could respond, the young woman, Nvart, came bounding down the steps toward them. "Finally," she shouted. "Do you have any idea how long we've been waiting? Father's been driving me insane, asking if I've spotted you on the horizon every 5 minutes. And the cooks have made enough food for an army, which means I'll be eating leftovers for a week. And I hate leftovers, Tigran, you know I hate." "Nvart," Tigran said patiently. "Breathe." Nvart stopped in front of Anahit's horse, looking up at her with bright, curious eyes. "So you're her," she said. "The famous Anahit. The one my brother's been moping about for 5 years." "I wasn't moping," Tigran muttered. "You absolutely were." Nvart grinned at Anahit. "I'm Nvart, the better sibling. Welcome to the Eastern Mountains. You're going to love it here. Also, I have questions about what exactly happened in the Northern Territory because the reports we got were insane. Did Tigran really kick down the doors?" "He did, didn't he? I knew it. He's so dramatic." Anahit found herself laughing despite everything. "He did. It was very dramatic." "I knew it." Nvart looked deeply satisfied. "Come on, let's get you inside. You look exhausted. And hungry. And like you could use a very large glass of wine." Alpha Mesrop approached more slowly, his steps measured and dignified. When he reached Anahit, he inclined his head in a gesture of respect. "Welcome, daughter," he said, his voice deep and resonant. "May the goddess bless your arrival in our lands." "Daughter. Not stranger. Not guest. Daughter." Anahit felt tears prick at her eyes for what felt like the 100th time that week. "Thank you, Alpha," she managed. "Mesrop," he corrected gently. "You are to be my son's mate. You're family now. Call me Mesrop." And for the first time in 17 years, Anahit felt like she had found where she belonged. The weeks that followed were a time of healing. Tigran gave Anahit her own chambers, beautiful rooms overlooking a valley filled with wildflowers. He made no demands on her, no attempts to rush their bond forward. He simply was there. When she wanted to talk, he listened. When she wanted silence, he gave it. When she woke from nightmares, which happened often in those first weeks, he was at her door within minutes, ready to sit with her until the terror faded. Anahit found herself watching him, studying him, looking for cracks in the facade. But there were no cracks. Tigran Arshakunian was exactly what he appeared to be. A powerful alpha with a heart big enough to match his strength. She learned his habits. He woke before dawn every morning to train with his shadow guard. He spent his afternoons dealing with pack business, settling disputes, meeting with council members, planning for the future. He ate dinner with his family whenever possible, and he always saved a seat for Anahit even before she started joining them. She learned his fears. He was terrified of failing his pack, of not living up to his father's legacy. He worried constantly about his sister, about the dangers she faced as a warrior. And beneath it all, barely spoken but always present, was his fear that Anahit would never fully accept their bond. She learned his joys. He loved the mountains, loved running through them in wolf form with the wind in his fur. He loved his family with a fierce, protective devotion. He loved old stories and older songs, and sometimes late at night, Anahit would catch him humming melodies she didn't recognize. And slowly, gradually, she learned to love him. It happened on a night 2 months after her arrival. There had been a celebration in the pack, a gathering to honor the autumn equinox. The great hall had been filled with music and laughter, with food and wine, with wolves dancing and celebrating the turning of the seasons. Tigran had danced with Anahit. Just once, just a simple turn around the floor. But the way he had held her, gently, carefully, like she was something precious, had cracked something open in her chest. After the celebration, they walked together through the moonlit gardens that surrounded the great hall. The night was cool, the air sharp with the promise of winter, but the cold didn't touch Anahit. She felt warm, complete. Thank you, she said suddenly. Tigran looked at her, confusion flickering in his golden eyes. For what? For waiting for me. Anahit stopped walking, turning to face him fully. For giving me time. For being patient when I know it must have been difficult. It wasn't difficult, Tigran said. You were worth waiting for. Tigran. She stepped closer to him, close enough to feel the heat radiating from his body. I know I said I wasn't ready. I know I said I needed time. And you can have all the time you. I'm ready now. He stilled. Every muscle in his body went rigid. Anahit. I know my own heart, she said firmly. I've had 2 months to think, to heal, to understand what I want. And what I want is you. What I want is this bond. What I want is a life in these mountains, with this pack, with this man who has shown me more kindness in 2 months than I received in 17 years. Tigran's breath was coming faster now. His wolf was rising, she could see it in his eyes, the gold glowing brighter, the shadows around them deepening in response to his power. If you accept this bond, he said, his voice rough, there's no going back. We will be tied together for the rest of our lives. Your wolf and mine, intertwined forever. I know. I will not be a patient mate. His hands came up to cup her face. His touch infinitely gentle despite the intensity in his eyes. I will be possessive, protective. I will love you with everything I have, and I will expect the same in return. I know. And I will give you pups. A smile quirked at the corner of his lips. Many, many pups. Nvart is already planning to be the world's most excessive aunt. Anahit laughed, tears streaming down her face. I hope you're ready for that. I've been told I might be difficult to live with. I don't want easy, Tigran said, repeating the words he had spoken to her on that first night. I want you. And then he kissed her. The bond snapped into place with the force of a thunderclap. It was nothing like what she had felt with Vartan. That bond had been pale, incomplete, a shadow of what it should have been. This was fire. This was lightning. This was the feeling of two halves finally becoming whole. Anahit felt Tigran's wolf brush against hers, felt the power of his shadow abilities wrap around her like a protective embrace, felt his soul intertwine with hers in a way that could never be undone. And she knew, with absolute certainty, that she was finally home. 6 months passed. Anahit was Luna of the Eastern Mountains in truth now, not just by title, but by the love and respect of the wolves she served. She had thrown herself into her duties, learning the intricacies of the pack's governance, building relationships with the council members, working alongside Tigran as his equal in all things. And then one morning she discovered she was pregnant. The healer's words rang in her ears as she walked back to her chambers in a daze. 3 weeks along, Luna. Congratulations. Pregnant. After 17 years of trying. After 17 years of failure and shame and whispers about her barren womb. Pregnant. She found Tigran in their chambers, reading reports from the border patrols. He looked up when she entered, a smile already forming on his lips, but the smile faded when he saw her expression. What's wrong? He was on his feet immediately, crossing the room to her. Anahit, what happened? Are you hurt? Not hurt, she whispered. She took a breath. I'm pregnant. Tigran froze. For a long moment, he simply stared at her, his golden eyes wide, his expression unreadable. Then his face transformed. Pure, unadulterated joy. He swept her into his arms, lifting her off her feet, spinning her around the room like a man who had just been given everything he ever wanted. Pregnant, he said, his voice breaking. We're having a pup. We're actually. He set her down, cupping her face in his hands, and kissed her with such tenderness that Anahit felt her heart expand in her chest. I love you, he said against her lips. I love you so much it terrifies me. I love you too, she whispered back. I love you and I love this pup, and I love this life we're building together." For a moment everything was perfect. And then the messenger arrived. The news from the Northern Territory was grim. Vartan's new Luna, Sirenish, had died in childbirth 3 months prior. The pup, a son, had survived, but Vartan had gone mad with grief and rage. He had blamed everyone around him for Sirenish's death. The healers, the midwives, even the goddess herself. And now he was blaming Anahit. "He claims the Luna's death is retribution for Anahit's betrayal," the messenger said, his voice shaking. He was a young wolf, clearly terrified to be delivering such news. "He says the goddess took Sirenish because Anahit refused to accept her proper place. He says Anahit must return to the Northern Territory to face judgment." Tigran's eyes had gone flat and cold. The shadows in the room were shifting, responding to his barely controlled rage. "And if she refuses?" The messenger swallowed hard. "He says he will consider it an act of war. He's already sent envoys to the Western and Southern Territories, trying to build an alliance against the Eastern Mountains." Anahit felt cold dread wash through her. This couldn't be happening. She had finally found happiness, finally found peace. And now Vartan was threatening to destroy it all. "He's insane," she said quietly. "The goddess didn't take Sirenish because of me. She died because childbirth is dangerous, because sometimes even the strongest wolves don't survive it." "He doesn't care about reason," Tigran said. His voice was terrifyingly calm. "He cares about having someone to blame. And you're a convenient target." He turned to the messenger. "Tell Vartan that his demands are rejected. Anahit is Luna of the Eastern Mountains. She answers to no one but me and the Moon Goddess. If he wants a war, he's welcome to try." The messenger fled. The months that followed were tense. Anahit's pregnancy progressed, her belly swelling with the pup they had created together. But the joy of impending motherhood was shadowed by the constant threat from the north. Vartan's alliance building was proving more successful than they had hoped. The Western Territory, eager to expand its influence, had agreed to support him. So had 2 smaller packs that bordered the Northern Territory. The Eastern Mountains were powerful, but even they couldn't stand against a coalition of 4 territories. "We need allies of our own," Mesrop said during a council meeting. "The Southern Territory has always been friendly with us. And there are rumors that the High Pack, the wolves who serve the goddess directly, are concerned about Vartan's behavior." "I'll go to the south," Tigran said immediately. "I'll negotiate with Alpha Havanes. He's reasonable. He'll see the threat Vartan poses to all of us." "You can't leave," Anahit said, her hand resting on her belly. "Not now. Not with the pup coming so soon." "I'll be back before the birth," Tigran promised. "I would never miss that. But someone has to go, and I'm the best negotiator we have." Anahit wanted to argue, but she knew he was right. Tigran's reputation, his power, his presence, these were the Eastern Mountains' greatest assets. If anyone could secure an alliance with the South, it was him. "Come back to me," she said, gripping his hand. "Promise me you'll come back." "Nothing in this world could keep me from you," Tigran swore. "I'll be back within the month." He kissed her. He kissed the swell of her belly. And then he rode south, taking a small contingent of his shadow guard with him. 3 days after Tigran left, the Northern Territory attacked. It happened at night, without warning, without the formal declaration of war that tradition demanded. One moment, Anahit was asleep in her chambers. The next, she was being shaken awake by Nvart, whose face was pale with fear. "We're under attack. They bypassed our border patrols somehow. There are wolves in the compound. We need to get you to safety." Anahit's heart was pounding as she threw on clothes and followed Nvart through the dark hallways. She could hear fighting in the distance, the snarls of wolves, the clash of weapons, the screams of the wounded. "How many?" she asked. "Too many. They must have been planning this for months, waiting for Tigran to leave." Nvart's jaw was tight. Vartan's leading them personally. He's here for you, Anahit. He wants to drag you back to the Northern Territory. Anahit's blood ran cold. She thought of her unborn pup. She thought of the life she had built. She thought of Tigran miles away, with no idea that his home was under siege. "Get me to your father," she said, her voice steady despite her terror. "I need to help coordinate the defense." "Anahit, you're pregnant." "I'm the Luna," Anahit cut her off. "And my people need me." The battle raged for hours. Anahit stood in the war room beside Mesrop, directing troops, coordinating healers, doing everything she could to help her pack survive. Nvart was on the front lines, her warrior skills on full display as she cut through enemy wolves with deadly precision. But the Northern Coalition had numbers on their side. For every wolf they killed, 2 more seemed to take their place. And then, as dawn broke over the mountains, Vartan himself appeared at the gates of the Great Hall. He was flanked by his best warriors, his eyes wild with madness and hatred. "Anahit," he roared. "Come out and face me, you barren coward." Mesrop moved to intercept him, but Anahit held up her hand. "No," she said quietly. "This is between him and me." "Anahit." "I said no." She turned to face the old alpha, and something in her expression made him stop. "I have spent 17 years being victimized by that man. 17 years of quiet suffering, of bending to his will, of allowing myself to be diminished so that he could feel powerful. That ends today." She walked out of the war room. She walked through the great hall, her head held high, her hand resting on her belly. And she stepped through the doors to face the man who had tried to destroy her. Vartan looked worse than she remembered. His face was gaunt, his eyes hollow, his once proud bearing reduced to something hunched and desperate. The madness was clear in every line of his body. "There you are," he snarled. "The whore who ruined my life." "I ruined nothing," Anahit said calmly. "You destroyed your own life with your cruelty and your obsession. Cyrenish's death was a tragedy, but it was not my doing. And this war you've started, this senseless violence, is not going to bring her back." "Shut up." Vartan lunged toward her, but his warriors held him back. "You were supposed to be mine. You were supposed to give me heirs. Instead, you ran to that shadow-touched freak and spread your legs for him like a—" "Careful." The voice came from above. Every head turned upward as shadows poured down from the sky like ink spilling through water. They coalesced on the ground before the great hall, taking form, taking shape, becoming Tigran. He stood between Anahit and Vartan, his golden eyes blazing, his entire body radiating lethal power. Behind him, more shadows materialized. His entire shadow guard arrived through methods that no normal wolf could understand. "You're early," Anahit breathed. "I turned around the moment I felt your fear through the bond," Tigran said without looking at her. His eyes were fixed on Vartan. "I told you what would happen if you threatened my mate." Vartan's face twisted. "Your mate? She's mine by right. She was never yours." Tigran's voice dropped to a deadly whisper. "And after today, you'll never threaten her again." The fight was over almost before it began. Vartan was a skilled fighter, but he was no match for a shadow wolf at the peak of his power. Tigran moved through the battle like darkness itself, appearing and disappearing, striking from angles that should have been impossible. Within minutes, Vartan was on the ground, Tigran's sword at his throat. "Please," Vartan gasped. "Please, I'll withdraw. I'll go back to my territory. I'll never." "You'll never do anything again," Tigran said. "By the authority vested in me by the Moon Goddess and the Council of Alphas, I sentence you to death for attempted murder of a Luna, violation of territorial law, and crimes against the peace." The sword fell. And Vartan Nazarian breathed his last. In the aftermath of the battle, the Eastern Mountains stood victorious. The Northern Coalition crumbled without Vartan's leadership. The Western Territory, realizing they had backed the wrong side, quickly sued for peace. The smaller packs surrendered unconditionally. And Anahit, Anahit gave birth to a healthy pup 3 weeks later. A son, with his father's golden eyes and his mother's gentle spirit. They named him Aram, after the ancient hero of their people, a name that meant strength and protection and enduring love. As Anahit held her son for the first time, Tigran kneeling beside her bed with tears streaming down his face, she thought about the journey that had brought her here. The years of suffering, the betrayal, the humiliation in that great hall, when Vartan had forced her to her knees. And the man who had walked through those doors and changed everything. "You saved me," she whispered, looking at her mate. Tigran shook his head. "No, I showed up at the right moment. But you saved yourself, Anahit. You survived 17 years of his cruelty. You held your head high when he tried to break you. You became the Luna of the eastern mountains through your own strength and grace." He leaned down to kiss her forehead. "I just had the honor of loving you through it all." Anahit smiled, looking down at their son, their miracle, their proof that true love could overcome any obstacle. "Thank you," she said, "for kneeling that day, for kissing my feet when everyone else wanted to see me broken." "I would do it again," Tigran said. 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times, for every day of the rest of our lives. And as the morning sun rose over the mountains, bathing the world in gold, Anahit knew that she had finally found her happy ending. Not because a man had saved her, but because she had found the strength to let herself be loved. And that, my beautiful listeners, is the story of Anahit and Tigran. A story of betrayal and redemption. Of a woman who lost everything and found something better. Of an heir who was willing to kneel before his enemies rejected Luna because he knew. He knew from the very first moment that she was worth more than any alliance, any throne, any kingdom. If this story touched your heart, if you felt something while listening, I want you to do something for me right now. First, hit that subscribe button. I know everyone says it, but I mean it, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Second, leave a comment. Tell me which part of this story hit you the hardest. Was it the moment Tigran knelt? Was it Anahit finding the strength to love again? Was it the final battle? And don't forget, tell me the city you're watching from so that I can send you a hug. Because wherever you are in the world, whatever you're going through, I want you to know that your story isn't over. Just like Anahit's story wasn't over when she was on her knees in that hall. Sometimes the person who will kneel for you, who will love you like you deserve to be loved, is still on their way. Don't give up hope. I'll see you in the next story.